How goes it? It's Matt here. And I'm stood right now, well, actually sat right now, in front of a radiator looking at my back garden. It's been blue the last few days, but today it's got a blanket of grey. The seagulls seem to be blending in. They're blending into the sky. And I'm staring at the fence in my back garden that's been decaying for the last 5 years I've lived here. Looking sadder and sadder. It started off kind of charming and then it became a bit embarrassing. And now I think it's back to charming again. This fence, I think I've talked about it before, but it's a plywood fence. You've never seen anything like it. It's a plywood fence, and apparently it was built by a man who knocked on the door of the last man who lived here and said, I can put a fence up if you want it, for cheap. And my God, he did it for cheap, because apparently within a week, that thing had already fallen over. It's a nuts fence. It's so busted and broken. It's actually leaning on the hedge behind from my neighbour. And no one can tell. Because it looks so horrific. You can't tell that it's fallen. It's that bad that if it was standing, it would look just as bad as falling over. That's how bad this fence looks. It's made out of plywood. It has all these cross beams of odds and sods that I think the guy had just had in the back of his van. I've put it together where it's been falling apart with other screws, another piece of wood. I've even got the fence still standing because it's got a piece of string on it. It's got a handmade door with a lock and a hinge and everything. But there are holes in this fence that are bigger than the hole that the door is. The best way I can describe this fence. Do you remember those old Western films with all the houses made out of planks of wood? This, in a posh house you'd get feathered edging fencing, and then most houses have panels, but these panels are just plywood, and the fence is diagonal. I love to look out my back garden and watch the cats navigate this fence. It's like an assault course for them. Because they like to walk along fences, they don't end up going on the ground and then walking across. You'd expect a cat to do that, but no. Instead, they go along all the frame that's there. I see them really precariously walk up the bit that's diagonal. It's horrific. But it's endless entertainment. It's one of the things that stopped me from replacing it. That and the cost of a fence, because we've been doing stuff in the house the whole time and the last thing you think about is a fence. It's absolutely tragic though. So I'm looking out at my garden and at the same time I'm getting this aroma of incense in the house. We've recently changed our incense. About 6 months ago, I bought a 20-pack of assorted incense sticks, and it's been a journey. A really horrific journey. I almost instantly regretted buying them. There were about 12 or 13 incense sticks that smelt nice. They were a bit too perfumey, but they were nice, You put them on every now and then. But we did the amateur mistake. As we were going along, we should have put on ones we didn't like as much. And instead, we would always go for the one we liked the best at any given time. So we essentially had a pack of incense sticks that smelt worse as time went on. And me and my partner would open them up and have a smell of a bunch. And by the end, it was just which one doesn't smell the worst. Until it peaked at the end with the worst smelling incense stick I have ever smelled in my life. And that is talcum powder incense. And I knew it was going to be bad. I could see it coming a mile off. All the other ones had pretty pictures in them. They all had nice names. And this one just said baby powder. And had a stock image of a baby staring at you. And this baby was flexing its muscles. Almost being like, this is gonna smell like shit. Just you wait till you like me. And my God, when we got there, it was horrific. the stench of talcum powder in the house, which by itself doesn't smell bad. The problem isn't that talcum powder smells bad. The problem is that it's got asbestos in it. No, the problem was trying to relax for the night and putting on a talcum powder incense stick was just sending my mind in all sorts of weird, like, I didn't know where I was coming or going. I'm meant to be relaxing and I'm just getting this waft of baby powder. But now, what I've done, I did the research. I'm not going to lie, I did chuck most of that pack of baby powder went out. It wasn't many in there, but I got about 3 days in and I couldn't stand it anymore. So I did research online and I found the sort of incense sticks you smell in a church. And they're frankincense and myrrh incense sticks. And they just have that slight whiff that isn't quite a perfume, but just enough that it makes a nice cozy smell in the house during the winter months. Just to battle off the mould and the damp of a British winter. Because in the summer, even in the spring and the autumn, I'm not using incense sticks often. But as the nights draw in, you just need something that smells all right in the house. Because otherwise, the fungal spores of the black dots that appear in the bathroom ceiling or in other places, those will drive you mad. And you might have noticed I don't post on this podcast often. And what it is, I think you're going to agree with me maybe. I think too many things have too much of a point. Hold with me. When I started this podcast, I first started posting poetry. I was writing and then reciting. And it was just all a bit too much and too structured. So I went really loose, but I'd have a bigger point. Something more informational. And I tell you stories, but I'm not going to lie. I am a man who has a desk job where I look at spreadsheets. I'm not exactly Indiana Jones. I'm not exploring the world in some massive way. So for me, I couldn't go on these big escapades all the time. So that was going to dry up anyway. And I need to keep some of that stuff for stand-up and performing, yeah? And so I went a kind of bit more informational. I thought, why don't I just piece all these things together that I enjoy in the world? I did one on the Rebecca riots, where I'd done a lot of research before for another project, then I just brought that to it. And I did one on Guy Fawkes, stuff that interested me at the time, but was a bit more informational based. And I didn't get to kind of riff and be my natural self. It's my natural self in a way, but not often. I have undiagnosed ADHD. I'm currently going through the process of getting a diagnosis. My family is riddled with it. I got it, but it's a 5-year waiting list on the NHS. I'm not in a rush, right? But I get these spurts of wanting informational things, but a lot of the time I live in a much more, for lack of sounding a bit more wanky, but poetic way. I enjoy the texture of things, the story of things, but not necessarily, and this is my other point, my point from back there, I think we're just a bit too obsessed with needing a point all the time. I get a bit tired of it. I get a bit tired of everything being very informational when the world ain't always informational, is it? Sometimes the world is just mad and doesn't have a complete point. But I tell you what it does have. It has a feeling. So what I wanted to do is have a go at just bringing that feeling element with bits and pieces of the points. And out of that feeling, you can get points. But it doesn't have to be like a hot take necessarily, or me reciting the news in a new way for you. Instead, it's much closer to one of my favourite things to listen to of all time, and I go back to it all the time, and things that are like it. There was a poet and writer called Jack Kerouac, and he had this book called On the Road, which was a stream of consciousness book, where he travelled across the US in the 1950s, or maybe earlier. And this book reads like poetry as he's travelling and drifting across America. And he recorded these albums where he would read this stuff over jazz. And I just always loved the way that he spoke. I loved the way that he could talk about the world in a way where I just loved hearing the way he talked about it. It didn't have a point necessarily. The point was the description. And I have this thing I do that stops me from getting too much writer's block. I take a point, or I take a thing in the world, and instead of trying to distill it down, I open it up and I go down a kind of journey of this thing. And that's what we're going to do today. And I'm already doing it, but that's what we're going to be doing today. And that's what I want to kind of take this in the future. And I think we can say a lot about how the UK, and other places I experienced, but the UK feels, how modern Wales feels. And I think the way it feels can tell you more about it a lot of the time than just raw information. And funny little tidbits and things that I've seen from around. And that's where we're going to start, right? Because for me, I've been seeing something that has been charming the life out of me for the last couple of days. It only happens once a year, but everyone in the UK on Christmas Day, almost exclusively, gets a nice new Christmas coat from Santa Claus. You'd think all the little kids are the most excited for Christmas, or the grandparents spoiling them where they can. But instead, I feel like half of the most excited people on Christmas are adults that get a nice new Christmas coat. I got one this year. And not only that, we have a tradition in the UK on Boxing Day, people go to sporting events. And I was thinking about the blokes, the blokes who are marching down roads with double yellow lines, residential parking, named after colonial names. They're all wrapped up, hard as nails, but wrapped up all cosy and warm in their nice new coat their wife or their loved one bought them. Shouting unmentionable things at people from the next town over as they march towards their church, their cathedral, drinking what they think is the blood of Christ in tins and disposing of them under cars, marching past houses that might draw their curtains, or marching past houses that then erect burger vans in their front garden to make a little bit of cash. We got quite a few of them around Cardiff. You should see them. The amount of money the people that are opposite a stadium with a burger van must make on a yearly basis must be beautiful. Good on them. Blokes in scarves, wrapped up in garms that have Stone Island or CP Company or Barber on their arm. Blokes who file in single file to then go stand in pews and like a big choir shout nods at people who've come over in a train or on coaches for hours from distant parts of the island. And I can see on the TV all the nice new coats glimmering through the exhaled CO2 insults, swears and slurs at their prophets and martyrs that play on a pitch below, trying to put off a goalkeeper that's from Brazil who's wondering why he's stood in 1 degree in Cardiff on a December. How tragic. And the blokes will put their scarves over their mouths so that the CCTV can't tell which one of them has said the thing that'll get them fired from their job. And they can't actually drink in the stadium, not in the stands at least. So they load it up beforehand, scream a little, and then single file head back out before drinking more tins down streets, walking the double yellow lines back home, drinking again what they think is the blood of Christ from tins that they then shove back under cars, that they then drink on buses secretly and trains as they walk back to their houses and stumble up their drive, and fumble their keys. The whole family holds their breath as they hear the key jingle in the lock and wonder which team had their ball go in the net more times than the other, and hoping what greets them on the other side is a smile. And there's a kind of charm to that, but then also this undertone, isn't there, of these coats we all wear around. Football culture is everywhere. I go to the rugby, and on Boxing Day I was doing the same thing. Apart from there aren't away ends in rugby, instead you stood around the crowd. So I was stood at Boxing Day with all my loved ones around me, or some of my loved ones around me. And you stand on the terraces and you don't know who's around you, like where people are from, until the last second. So about 30 seconds before kickoff, it was Cardiff versus Newport. It dawned on us that nearly every single person around us in a donut shape was a Newport fan. And we were little island of Cardiff fans in the middle. And fair play to them. Newport has not beaten Cardiff in a league match in 21 games. And their fans still belt their songs. They still scream in support. And we had a right laugh. Little bit of jokes between each other. Little bit of chanting against each other. A bloke that every time the referee gave a call at Cardiff's way would go, "Every time, ref, every time." And I just laughed at him every time. As they were thinking there was a conspiracy against them because we're the capital city. It's hilarious. I love it. I love being able to mix with people from other towns and it not be an away end, actually. So I think there's some great cultural things that can come from sport, but some nasty undertones that come through. And with football, you see it with fashion all the time now. Everyone's got their own custom football shirt because, to be honest, they look baller. I feel the effect of people wearing kind of high fashion, or at least kind of middle fashion coats to football that is now seeped through into normal society. With people wearing Burberry, Barber, CP Company and Stone Island on the regular. This has become such a core of culture in the UK that I absolutely love it. The whole jumping off point for me here was to talk about Christmas coats. That's what I got written on the page in front of me. And I hope we've ebbed and flowed through that in a fun little way. I wonder, did you get a nice coat for Christmas? Did you get a nice new second-hand coat for Christmas? We'll have a chat soon, and we'll do a bit more of the same, will we? Because next time, I want to talk about something I love. And I'm a little bit of a bird watcher. And I went to the Newport wetlands and saw the starlings recently. I think we should have a chat about that.